Hey guys, SGT03 coming at you with another Maple Tabletop review. Today we're going to be looking at the Spyderco Delica 4, and that is in VG10 stainless steel from Japan. Now, I purchased this knife because it had been a while since I've had, a lightweight, kind of slim, pared down, not too big, not too small, folder that I could just slide into my pocket and it would kind of just disappear and I wouldn't know it's there until I needed it. I carried a couple different folders in the Marines. When I was young in summer camp and Boy Scouts, we were carrying, we were always interested in the new Leathermans that were coming out and the new Gerbers that were coming out to kind of compete with Leatherman. And, I remember seeing the Spydercos at the time. This is back in the 90s, mid, early 90s. I guess maybe 94, 95. I remember seeing the Spydercos on the shelf, and they were always kind of like the cheaper, kind of weird looking option, with the black handles. I always just kind of steered clear. I kind of just observed them, and something hit me about them, and they didn't really seem like quality. They at least didn't have the quality that I was looking for at the time. And this is me as a young boy. So fast forward today, I've blown through a few, pretty heavyweight CRKTs. I got a couple as a gift. I lost a beautiful CRKT. I left it in the door of a cab in Japan like an idiot, and that's what you get for being 19 years old and getting all ahead of yourself and being in a new country. So I've lost some good ones. I've had them come and go, and that kind of brings me to here today. I'm very, very pleased to have acquired this new knife. It's about in the $50 price range, and I can tell you for that price, you're getting a really, really solid knife. Very well made, very solid knife. Before we get any further here, let's just give you some overall dimensions. First, I'll just give you a little close-up here. Very nice. All right, dimensions. So for usable cutting surface, right from where the blade starts, you're looking at just over 2.5, about 2.5 and an eighth there, just shy, which is good enough, for normal purposes. The handle, you're looking at about 4.25, and the overall, you're looking at about 7. So now, starting with the handle width, let's take a look at the hand. So we have my hand here, and looking at about 3.5 across the pads, and so that handle is giving you ample room. If you got a little bit wider hands, you're going to be able to get the knife all the way in the hand. And something that I've learned about handles are absolutely critical to the blade. You can have the best blade in the world, but if you don't have a solid handle backing it up, it's really, it's not usable. I mean, it's usable to an extent. So you've got about a 4.25 inch handle and about a 2.5 inch blade. And I love this configuration. I wouldn't go over, for an everyday usage kind of utility blade. I would consider this a light duty kind of everyday carry blade. What I found about the handle to blade ratios, like this blade here, it's got a nice big handle that really fills out the hand, and it can really distribute the force across a larger area of your hand. When you deliver a grip of a big handle into a small blade, you can really deliver a lot of power into the cut. You know, especially in this area up here, if you've got a nice wide pad that can distribute the force into the web of your hand back here, you can really, it extends your usage because you're not getting huge hot spots in your hand if you're doing some cutting tasks, and you can really deliver a lot of force. So in terms of this blade here, you have enough blade to fill out the length of your hand, but if you're going to go for a thumb over grip for some slicing tasks, like, let's see here, got some maple, we'll slice a little maple here. With a thumb over, as you can see, it slices quite well. This is factory edge. I haven't done anything yet to this edge. So it's got a pretty good slice factor. When I'm cutting, you know, a harder wood like maple, when I'm cutting with this knife, what I'm really feeling, what is very pronounced to me, is I have this big empty feeling right here. Right here, where it gets really thin, it feels very hollow and empty. Like there's like I want something more there for hard, kind of medium duty to heavy duty cutting tasks. I want more. If I was, you know, in the forest doing something, or, you know, doing some cutting tasks that were mid to heavy duty, maybe repetitive cutting tasks, I would take something that I had, like maybe an ace bandage from a first aid kit, and I would actually wrap this handle. Even just, you know, if you had like, you know, even just like a t-shirt or something to wrap around the handle just to make this wider here, that will really be of benefit to you in terms of being able to up the ante on the quantity of work and the type of work you can do with this blade. As is, it's definitely a light duty folder, and when I say light, I'm also talking about the weight. You've got a nice, very, very lightweight fiberglass reinforced nylon handle. All of the texturing is sharp, and it feels great, you know, sideways in the thumb, choked up on the blade, getting like a pinch grip on the blade. It's very secure. It really is very secure. So, you know, full on grip for kind of heavy duty cutting, really not designed for that. You know, if you notice this big swell right here in the kind of the jimping that's been cut into the top, and then the jimping up here, this really is designed to be held like this. That is the best, that is the most comfortable way to keep this blade indexed properly. So, you know, when you're digging into something in the thumb on the top mode, you quickly realize that it does feel better in terms of these two fingers, the guide fingers and the thumb. It feels more secure than if you were like this. It kind of feels a little weird. But, you know, how long is it before your thumb is going to be paying a pretty heavy price? You know, if you've got, you know, even if I wanted to carve this little, you know, 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch piece of maple down into a spear point with this, with my thumb up there, you know, at the end of even just that, you're looking at you can even see the dent that I just put in my thumb right there. You know, you're looking at a little bit of pain going on. You're looking at a hot spot. So in terms of abilities, this is a great light duty folder, very, very capable blade in terms of light duty activities. Slicing through fruits, you know, slicing up apples, slicing veggies. You've got a really thin blade profile here, which is going to really provide a high slice factor. Chop factor is basically non-existent in a blade like this. It's not designed really possess any really chop factor, but slice factor is pretty high. So this is the FFG model of the Delica 4. That stands for fully flat ground, and that to me, as a knife guy, that's a tad deceiving. When I think fully flat ground, I think single bevel kind of katana blade, where these primary bevels here, the main flats of the blade, would lead directly to the cutting point, to cutting edge. These bevels would form directly the cutting edge. There would be no other secondary bevels that then form a cutting edge. Fully flat ground would be flat directly to the cutting edge, both sides, a la katana blade. Now the drawbacks of something like that in terms of a kind of a utility blade like this is that you need a very thick spine in order to get the angle wide enough to maintain durability on your edge. You know, if this was fully flat ground right to the cutting edge, people would be turning the edges like cutting cardboard boxes and stuff. Like, you just can't have that. So what we have here really is a compound bevel. I mean, I would be inclined to reclassify it as partially flat ground. You know, there are no hollow grinds. You know, they didn't use a wheel or a contact wheel to put the grinds in. They are flat, and you can see the belt sander mark goes right up through the hole, so you can tell on both sides. It's very even. That's really just been laid up against a belt sander, you know, probably with water pouring down it to get those bevels nice and flat. In terms of the compound, so this is a compound bevel knife is what I'm saying, not as opposed to a single bevel. The cutting edge bevel itself is small enough to be durable, to maintain its durability. I'm going to measure here. The cutting edge itself is, as you can see, it's just a hair shy of a 1/16. You know, it gets a little bit wider up by the tip, but it's still not even scraping a 1/16. So the actual cutting edge bevels are just shy of a 1/16 of an inch, which is, I think, a great place to set your bevel for durability. The larger those cutting edge bevels get, the less durable the blade is. Your slice factor tends to increase when you have a little bit finer bevels, but the blade really requires a lot more maintenance at that point. So in this configuration, you're kind of struck a really nice balance between good performance, slice factor, high slice factor, and durability. And for the role of a light duty, everyday carry utility blade, that's basically exactly where you want to be. That's exactly where you want to be. So this is made in Seki City, Japan. This is all Japanese made. You know, the Japanese have been known for making great products. I used to own Japanese cars and never had a problem. I'll probably be moving into another Japanese car here pretty soon after struggling for a few years with a German-made car. So, you know, known for quality, known for reliability, and I can tell you one thing: the construction of this blade is extremely solid. So I'll give you the sound of the lockup here. It's very positive, very solid, and when I lock up, you can see at the junction here, there's no room, there's no wiggle room, there's no back and forth wiggle room, there's no up and down wiggle room. It's completely immoving. It's immovable. I won't say immovable, but it is absolutely rock solid. When I use this blade, I actually rarely deploy the blade all the way out unless I'm choking up to open a box or a package, but I find myself often actually just doing this, popping the blade open a little bit like this, slicing into what I need to slice, like cutting a piece of twine or you know, cutting open a little edge of a box or tape or something, and then just letting it close on itself. So in terms of carry options, you've got clip mounting holes for the Torx screws on both sides, top and bottom. So you can, you know, go tip down, tip up, lefty, righty, any way you want it. If you're the type that likes to wear the knives clipped onto your onto the edge of your pocket or on the inside of your pocket or your waistband or your belt or wherever. That's not really how I like to do it. When I clip the blade on the outside of my pocket, I hate having to reach past. You start having to reach past the blade to get what's in your pocket, and I mean, this is designed to be sticky and grippy. And then when you got that rubbing on the back of your hand, and then when you pull whatever it is out of your pocket, you're kind of have to be very aware of not pulling your knife off with it, and it's just, to me, it's kind of a nightmare. Plus, I don't like having a knife visible. Like, you know, what are you gonna do? Go in your college class with your knives clipped onto your belt and stuff? It's just like, you know, it's kind of a little bit over the top for me, especially when you're rolling with blue like this. You know, it attracts a lot of attention. And it's like, you know, do you want to have people look you in the eyes and just kind of hear your words without, you know, kind of having these other judgments going on? It makes it easier, I think. You know, when you have something super obvious like that sticking out of your pocket, it kind of might take people that you're conversing with kind of out of you know, just focusing on maybe what you're saying or your personality instead. So I tend to be a little under the radar in terms of things like this. So I've been carrying this now in my side leg pocket for about 3 weeks, and I can tell you that the weight of this blade it's absolutely perfect. When I have this in my pocket, I always forget it's there. It's never present in my mind. You know, sometimes I'll reach down and I'll just feel the pocket and make sure that it's still there. But I found that the way that this is weighted, it just drops right in and it doesn't want to go anywhere. It stays really secure. The fact that I can have this in my pocket all the time, you know, 4.5-inch handle, 2.5-inch blade, really solid lockup, very, very sharp blade, and never really have to feel like it's there, never really have to feel like I'm carrying something. To me, that is the epitome of EDC. To me, that really fulfills the epitome of what you want or what I want in an everyday carry blade. And of course, you know, we all like different things, and there are circumstances where, you know, I would want to rock something a little bit more formidable, and I'm sure we can all agree with that to some extent. So in terms of the roles here, you know, light duty, everyday carry, and when I say everyday carry, the lightness and the construction of the blade, it actually fulfills the role of being carried every single day, which when you get into a lot of bigger, heavier blades that, you know, they might look maybe a little bit cooler, they might have more space age materials going on, you know, like chunky, like aluminum handles and all this type of stuff. You know, the more weight you start putting on, the more mass, you know, the different clips and stuff like that, the more present it becomes. And in some ways, the more hassle it can become, the less inclined you'll be to, you know, keep clipping it in your pocket. You know, if you have to reach by it every time you grab your phone, or reach by it every time you want to take your wallet out at the supermarket, and you have to constantly be careful that you're not pulling it back out with a ton of crap, the less likely you're going to be to actually carry it every day. So when you're talking about EDC, you really should try to make your selection as pared down and as slimmed down as possible. You know, And that of course depends on a lot on personal preference and what you want, what you want. Which of course, you know, we all have our own things. So the VG10 steel here that Spyderco uses is essentially a Japanese made cutlery steel. It was marketed heavily to kitchen knives, chef knife market in Japan, and was kind of eventually sequestered into this folder market, and particularly really brought forth. And I think even perhaps maybe the rights were even purchased to by Spyderco. I had come across something that seemed to indicate that online. Because if you do some searching for VG10 online, you know, you're not going to really find this listed in, you know, some of the Western type manuals. According to Wikipedia, VG10 stands for VeryGood 10, which is it's kind of the high grade stainless cutlery steel in Japan. And now in terms of the way the steel was finished from the factory, I'm going to attempt to show you something here. See if I can get a reflection. You can kind of begin to see it right now. You see a little bit of light reflecting right around here, right around there. Now, everywhere else on the blade, we're looking at a nice, fine, really sharp, fine edge. When you get into about this portion right here, this is from the factory as I received in the mail. You've got actually little damage areas right on the cutting edge that are pronounced enough to where it reflects light. And that's a great way to inspect your cutting edge. Using a good light, if you kind of look down the edge, it should look black. The very cutting edge should look like light is absorbing it, like light doesn't bounce off of it. It just should look like a black kind of mirror. But when you get down here, you start catching flickers of light reflecting back on you. That's actually the fine cutting edge being turned or rubbed or scraped down or rubbed over by something that hit it. Another piece of steel, maybe it was the spine of another blade as it was coming down the conveyor belt or something. It really could be anything. But I did notice that in terms of the fit and finish from the factory, you know, I did have some issues with the actual cutting edge. My edge had actually had come turned. The edge was slightly turned over here in a few areas, and still is. I have not touched this at all with any type of sharpening implements or anything. So there's that. So also I noticed that in the middle of the thumb deployment hole, you know, when you get your thumb in there, you do feel like a nice it's a sharp edge. It's an unfinished, it's a raw edge. And if you look on the inside of this hole, you will actually see the marks of the drill press. You'll see where the corkscrew marks of where the drill has actually augured out that hole and drilled out that steel. So you have these machine marks inside of the thumb hole, a really sharp edge on the thumb hole that, you know, when you're deploying, it does help you to have a bit of catch there. So it assists with the opening. So I can appreciate that. But, you know, at like a $54, $55 price point, you're not looking at, you know, advanced hand finishing techniques. So I'll talk briefly on some modifications that you might want to look into. Now, if you think in terms of modifications, you start to think of say, you know, you're buying this for $54. What would Spyderco have done to this blade if it was a $150 blade? You know, at that point, you might be talking about an individual worker coming in with gloves and some sanding sticks or something and doing the edges, inside edges of this hole, and maybe deburring that a little bit and kind of polishing that over. You might be looking at a worker that has a circular shaped sanding stick. I mean, even a pen wrapped in sandpaper is probably what I would end up using. Put some double stick tape on there, put some, 1000 grit or something like that, and getting in there and removing all those machine marks, and maybe even using this to polish over the edges. On the upper spine, if you're carrying this in your pocket, a lot of problems that I know a lot of guys out there will identify with who EDC knives without a clip. If this is in your pocket, you can really damage over time your pocket and make holes in your pocket. And the outside of the spine of the knife is also quite sharp. It really is. It could use a little bit extra finishing. So again, like, if this wasn't $50, what extra hand finishing would have been done? That they essentially had to cut to keep the prices down. Those are the types of processes that you want to do when you get a cheaper blade. $50 is, not super cheap. We're not in the $19.99 range here, but when you're in the $50 range, they're looking to keep their prices down. So as the consumer, when you buy a blade like this, what you have all the time, on your weekend or whatever, you can go ahead and do those extra processes that do increase the value, in my opinion. So I would take a sanding stick or some sandpaper, and I will, and go over the edges on both sides here. I would even hit that with like 1500 and polish it up, just so it's a nice round feel. So even if when I'm cutting, I got my thumb up here and I like to push the blade for extra control with this extra thumb, having a nice kind of polished, rounded spine, I really have come to appreciate that and value that. And I'll probably end up taking the marks out of the deployment hole and rounding that over a bit. And finally, when I do need to sharpen this blade after a while, I will go and fix those areas down here of the blade that do reflect light. But I have to say that all in all, this blade has met, if not exceeded, my expectations for an everyday carry blade. I was very concerned doing some research online about how easy it is to potentially buy a counterfeit Chinese Spyderco, because they're very prolific online. Not so much in the Delica 4, but a lot of other types of Spydercos are being copycatted out there. All in all, it's pretty easy to tell if you have an authentic one. Just the quality is very high. The lockup and everything, the construction is super duper solid. I am extremely pleased with my new EDC knife, the Delica 4. All right, guys. Well, I'll catch up with you another time after the holidays here. This is SGT03 Outdoors signing off with another Maple Tabletop review.